Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Derek Afasi. I'm the owner of Afasi Financial Group. And today's topic, I want to discuss a really simple concept: is a 401k a traditional IRA? And first off, it is not. You might hear them used interchangeably. Essentially, they're very similar, but one is offered through an employer while the other is set up through an individual basis. So there's ways that after you've sufficed a certain age requirement, or you ended up leaving that specific company that held your 401k, you could actually conduct something known as a rollover into a traditional IRA. So the first bullet point, I say 401k equals employer versus IRA equals individual. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, with the 401k, it's an individual, it's a type of retirement account that's set up through your employer. So a person, I'm going to draw, do the nice ugly illustrations up on the board. You have an individual that's working for a company, and this company says, hey, listen, you're such a great employee. We want you to stay at this company, so therefore we're going to offer you a sort of a retirement account, or we're going to give you access to contribute into one of our retirement accounts known as a 401k. Now, a 401k is set up through a private institution, just like as like a 403b could set up a state would be like a state institution, like a lot of teachers, like a teacher that works for a private a private school might be offered a 401k, as opposed to a teacher that works for the public sector might be offered a 403b. All it essentially is this employee could now take a portion of their money, the portion of their salary that they're getting paid each and every month, each and every year, and place it aside into a retirement bucket. Now, that might sound good, but at the end of the day, there's nothing guaranteed about 401k accounts, just like there's nothing guaranteed necessarily on IRA accounts unless you set them up the right way. So what do I mean by that? Well, the problem that lies is an individual could go and, let's say if somebody's making $100,000 a year, just for easy math, and they have access to contributing to their 401k plan. You got to think of this 401k kind of like a bucket. So the employer is going to say, okay, you have these options where you could take a portion of your salary up to a specific cap limit and place those monies each and every month or each and every year into this 401k bucket. They're the ones that established it. They're the ones that they found, whatever company that houses that specific 401k, such as the Fidelity, such as the T. Rowe Price, etc., that came into, that private institution, said, we want to basically offer you guys this 401k platform. So this individual, let's say they decide, I want to put in 10% of my money each and every year into this 401k bucket. Well, the company could either give something known as a match, which would be further contributions into this bucket to say, thank you so much, Mr. Employee, for contributing to our 401k plan. Because you're such a good employee, we're going to go and give you a match. So if you're placing 10%, we might match, $1,000 or 1% off of whatever you're placing in there. So all the contributions, both what you're placing in there and the employer match, if they give you an employer match. Now, unfortunately, a lot of companies have just said, hey, be happy you have a job. We're not going to match you anything. But ultimately, you could set up something known as this defined contribution plan, this 401k related plan, and you're placing dollars aside into this bucket. So the way that this bucket could essentially grow is the more and more dollars that you're placing into this bucket could make this grow. And then also, most importantly, the interest credit that is tied to this bucket as well. Now, 401k plans typically have something known as mutual funds. So what that means is it's going to be a combination of stocks and bonds. So if you're working for a company, let's say you're in your 30s, and you're placing dollars aside into a 401k account, typically a financial advisor is going to tell you, hey, listen, be more aggressive because the market has always seemed to go up. Mutual funds have always seemed to go up in value. So therefore, be very aggressive now. So even if the market goes down, well, then, you'll have a long time horizon before you actually retire to then, utilize all those uptrends of those mutual funds. So an individual will typically be aggressive. They're placing dollars aside, and what they're seeing is the dollars that they're placing in there, and hopefully a positive interest credit will grow this bucket at the end of the day, at the end of the year. Now, like we've seen in other market years, like such as 2008, there's a huge risk associated there. What I mean by that is if this is interest credit, if whatever that performance of that mutual fund does, if it comes back negative, well, obviously that could make that bucket smaller. So even though this individual could have been contributing for years and years and years, it could have been giving, contributions of $200,000, their account was sitting at $1 million at a time. Well, if this mutual fund performance decides to, go down, let's say it gets hit by 50% or 10%, whatever that case may be, let's say it was 50% like it was in 2008, Well, then at the end of the day, it didn't matter how much more they contributed into that plan. That bucket went from $1 million down to $500,000. So this interest credit can be a good thing, but it could also be a negative thing. And that's something that's so important to understand is, you know, try how to avoid those negatives. And those negatives on a 401k account are not just the mutual fund performance going down, that could potentially go down, but then you also have the mutual fund related fees associated with that 401k account, the 401k miscellaneous fees associated with that 401k account. And then also if you're going to a financial advisor, you know, maybe one that's setting up your 401k plan, he might say, yes, you could utilize my private services. I'm going to charge you an additional fee to monitor this account. So that's an additional fee. So what we constantly see with 401k accounts is we have a lot of fees and we have that downward market loss potential that could negate these accounts altogether, thus resulting in somebody not being able to properly retire. Because this employee at inception is saying, hey, as long as I'm placing money aside and my account is receiving good market growth, well, then this bucket's going to keep growing larger and larger and larger and larger. And unfortunately, what we've noticed, especially with the senior market, is individuals were placing their dollars into these 401k related accounts. They were thinking that they were just about to retire, but it was because of these reverse dollar cost averaging effects, such as the mutual fund related fees, such as the advisor fees, such as the 401k related fees, such as the downward market losses, and then they're trying to pull money from this account. So all of these negatives are compound interest are working against that specific account. So this is why, and let me clear off the screen. This is why individuals have not been able to properly retire, because they were throwing their dollars at risk. They were throwing their dollars at something that could potentially go down. Now understand, a 401k could be a great thing, especially if you have a very attractive employer match. I typically recommend, I say, you know, you want to at least contribute what that employer matches. And the matching of a 401k is could sound complicated at times. Some people have misconceptions of it. Basically, what happens is if you're placing dollars into this 401k bucket, the company might say we're going to match you 100%. That's not going to be 100% off of every dollar that you're placing into it. That's the largest misconception. It's going to be 100% off of a specific percentage. So if somebody says, if a certain employer company says, okay, we're going to match you 100% up to 3%, and this person makes 100 grand, well, if they're placing in $3,000 into this account, well, then we understand that the employer is going to match $3,000. So essentially $6,000 is going to go into this bucket at the end of that year. Let's say this person says, okay, I understand you're giving me 100% of 3%. I'm going to go and put 10 grand into this bucket. Well, what is the company going to match them? It's not going to be $10,000, and that's the misconception. It's actually only going to be $3,000. So then essentially $13,000 would be going into that bucket. Let's say if they have a 3% match and they have 100% up to 3%, this person wants to put $1,000 into their bucket. Well, it's going to be 100% up to 3%, so therefore they would be placing $1,000 into that bucket. So it's whatever that, you know, whatever 100% or 50% up to a specific match contribution. So that's, I hope that that tackles the concept of the match. So that's why a 401k is good. You know, it's at least allowing people to set something aside for retirement, and then also if that employer gives an attractive match, I mean that's free money. You should at least, you know, utilize that free money, or that's at least my recommendations on it. The downside to the 401k plan, just like other types of qualified retirement accounts, are you're going to receive it's going to be fully taxable after this account has grown. You know, with the power of compound interest, with any sort of contributions, any sort of performance, when it comes time to retire, you have a couple of different restrictions. The first restriction is you cannot pull money from this account before age 59 and a half, or else you'll get hit with a penalty. Well, you get fully taxed, and then you'll get hit with a 10% penalty. And then when you do want to pull money after 59 and a half, you're going to be 100% fully taxable. So that's going to show as if it's your income for that year. So if somebody's pulling money from their 401k account, or they're pulling money from a qualified retirement account, and let's say they're 62 years old, and they already made $100,000 that year, and they decide to pull out another $50,000 that year from their qualified retirement account, well, at the end of that year, it's going to show as if they made $150,000. So that's how, when we mean fully taxable, it's showing it off of how much income that it would, you know, be on the books for that year. So sometimes people go and they'll do like a conversion, like a 401k, or qualified to, you know, Roth conversion, and they are surprised when they're getting hit with that taxation at the end of the year. So just be mindful of those couple different things. Now, an IRA is an individual retirement account. You could set this up on an individual basis, meaning they have lower cap limits than a typical 401k account, but it's going to work very, very similar. It does not offer you a match, but unlike a 401k that might give you limited fund options, like in between 5 to 15 different fund options to choose from, regarding your mutual funds, a traditional IRA could give you upwards of 300 different funds. If you go to, a random financial institution and you want to set up a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, however that specific retirement account is established. So it just gives you more funding options, more eggs to choose in your basket to ultimately allow you to have better growth potential. But it does not give you any sort of match because it's an individual. So you're not going to be matching yourself on those specific types of plans. The problems with the 401k, obviously, it's going to be fully taxable at the end. The IRA is going to be fully taxable as well. Also, you have the limited funding options on the 401k, and then the traditional IRA does not offer any sort of match with that specific account, and it's also going to cap how much in contributions you could place in a given year. Now, the good things about a traditional IRA, and what we try to help individuals figure out, is as they're nearing retirement. So let's say we have somebody in their 50s or in their 40s, in their 60s, in their 70s, whatever that case may be, and they understand that they're either going to be leaving their employer or they've already left their employer. So now they have a 401k account that's essentially sitting on the sidelines, or they want to gear up for retirement. They know that they're going to be retiring soon. So what we could do is we try to establish different types of IRA accounts that eliminate all those different reverse dollar cost averaging aspects to make sure that you're not having mutual fund related fees. You're not having advisor fees. You're not susceptible to downward market losses. And when you want to pull out income, you could utilize certain IRA contracts that you could attach income riders to that kind of work like a personal pension plan. So something that if you understand that you want to have lifetime income go to you at a specific age, let's say you're 55 years old and you have a couple of old 401k accounts or old IRA accounts sitting on the sidelines and you're just saying, okay, I want to retire at age 65 in the next 10 years. I understand how much my expenses are going to be in retirement, or I need some help understanding how much my expenses are in retirement and how much income I ultimately need to pull from these accounts. What would be my best solution? And that's something that we try to help design. So we have access to all the different types of carriers out there, all the different types of strategies and products to make sure that you could take your existing 401ks and roll it over into properly designed traditional IRA accounts. Or if you have a Roth 401k, how to set them up in properly designed Roth IRA accounts. It has to be like-to-like terms with all of those. And ultimately, when you set up the proper IRA that's specific to your goals, well, it allows you to use the smallest amount of dollars into these specific types of IRA contracts, but as much as necessary that will accomplish your goal. So if you're looking mainly as a growth play, okay, well, how do we eliminate any sorts of negatives? Because you don't want to take on that much risk, especially if you're going to be retiring when you need that money the most. If you're looking for lifetime income, that's typically where we really specialize in as max income planning. But we could set up certain strategies, like in this example, where this individual 65, he wants to trigger one set of income and then have step-ups in his retirement income. We do a process known as laddering strategy, known as our Retire Sharp planning system. And it just allows it a more efficient way on how to accomplish your goal successfully by leveraging existing accounts. So on average, through our Retire Sharp planning system, we typically go through about 1,200 different scenarios, products, and strategies per person. And ultimately, we do that because we have a system of checks and balances. So we want to make sure if we're giving you a specific recommendation, first off, we work on a national basis. We're located over in Florida, but we work on a national basis. So we want to make sure that we're as competitive as possible, that we're able to stay on a national basis. So this is why we try to have the most proprietary strategies out there, the most proprietary relationships with these companies to make sure that it's going to be like a perfect puzzle piece. Depending upon what your situation is, what your specific goals are, how to accomplish those goals the most efficiently, and the most effectively. If it's going to take, let's say if somebody has $500,000 in retirement assets and they have a specific goal that maybe it's only going to require $150,000 to accomplish that goal into specifically designed IRA contracts, well, use only $150,000. Don't use the full 500. If you could save dollars anywhere fit and throw that into the market and kind of have fun, that's the ultimate goal, is to make sure that you have the most leverage, the most chips to play with, but you're at least setting up your conservative side. You're at least setting up your max income plan, your your conservative plan to make sure that as the market goes up, you're receiving gains. As the market goes down, you're not receiving a loss. We plan for the worst so that you guys could always be confident in retirement. We are A+ rated on the Better Business Bureau. We've always had very good reviews. We've never had any complaints. That's because of this methodical process. I want to thank you very much for watching this video. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you have access to the most updated videos. And then also, guys, at any time, we offer 24/7 customer service. Give our 1-800 number a call if this is interesting to you. 1-800-566-1002.